All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Escape with Ryan and Declan. This week, we're going to be dialing in to Fantastic Four First Steps. We're shooting this on the Friday, so the promoted premiere of the movie, but we went and saw it last night, Thursday night. Um, Declan came to town to see it with me, so we actually got to watch it together, but we didn't talk too much in depth about the
Almost at all,
movie.
actually.
Yeah, we kind of just avoided it because we liked what we did last time with Superman, where a couple episodes back where we hadn't really discussed it together. Like him and I had had conversations with other people about it, like who we saw the movie with and stuff, but uh, we hadn't really talked to each other about it until we did the pod together. So we're kind of going for the same vibe with this. So yeah, um, we're gonna start with
Oh,
a spoiler-free reaction to it
okay.
this time. That way, like anybody that hasn't seen it yet that wants to watch this
I was
episode, you
about to
can watch
say,
the
we
first
gotta,
like 10 minutes and then you can
yeah.
fuck off.
And go
uh,
watch it, yeah.
yeah, fuck off, go watch it, and then pin it in your like YouTube feed or whatever, and then come back and watch the rest of the pod. So, all right, what take me through your thoughts on it, and just
I
spoiler
wanted to do
free.
the countdown for our scores again, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's do that after we just talk about the movie though.
I know
'Cause-
we did this last time with Superman, and then I said the same thing where I'm like, once you do your overview, I'm gonna kind of know where you're leaning at.
yeah, but not if we're doing spoiler free, because I'm not going to be able to go into any sort of depth.
Okay.
Like
I
if I
guess my
like it,
spoiler free
it
to
means
keep
it's like a 6 to a 10 rating, right? Like there's no. Anyways, say what you got to
it.
say.
I guess for like spoiler free to keep it brief, I thought it was good. I had fun with it. It like clearly they put a lot of effort into like the how much money went into this. You know what I mean? Like you could tell it like the quality of the actual film in a sense of like its look and like sets were like some of the highest quality we've seen in Marvel. Like period.
Yeah.
Um, so you could tell that was pretty fucking cool. Um, and yeah, it was a good time. It had some really good scenes, like really good highs. Um, I don't know what else to say without getting spoilery. So yeah, I mean that's about it. It was just a really good. It was the best Fantastic Four movie we've ever gotten, which isn't like a high
The
bar to
very
beat,
low bar, yeah.
but it did do it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my quick thoughts. I liked the movie. I would recommend seeing it. For anybody that, I think the big impasse that we're at right now with Marvel is there's going to be people like us and, most of the people watching this that are big Marvel fans that do all the homework and watch all the shows and all the movies or even just all the movies and stuff. I think the biggest thing that's hindering their box office success right now is that the homework has become too much for most people. I think we saw that most reflected with the Thunderbolts, who, for comic book fans, the Thunderbolts is like a name that you've probably heard before. You probably picked up one of those comics. They're a lot of fun and enjoyable reads, but for the average movie-going fan that's maybe not tapped into that whole world, the Thunderbolts aren't exactly like a big name to draw people in. And then on top of that, basically every character in that movie, aside from Yelena and Red Guardian, they either debuted in a show or, in the case of like Bucky, like their last, like the last time they were fleshed out as a character or kind of updated in who they've become since they were shown off originally. Uh, that all happened in TV shows. So a lot of people that don't watch all the shows, like if you didn't catch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, if you didn't catch, half of these shows, you're not going to know who these characters are or or even if you do know who they are, in the case of Bucky, you might not know what his motivations are and shit like that. So I think this movie was a breath of fresh air in that sense, where you can go in and not know anything uh, going on right now in the current scape of the Marvel universe and enjoy it. It does take place in a different universe, and in the 828 universe, which they do like a little tribute at the end to Jack Kirby, and that was his birthday was August 28th, which is really nice that they did that little nod, and that's why the universe is called 828.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think breath of fresh air. Anybody can go see this movie. You don't have to have done your homework. It's very cut and dry. Like, here is the characters. This is a lived-in world that were, it was a lot like Superman in that sense, where it was like, we're not gonna do the whole origin story. We're just gonna drop you off in this world that's like very lived in and very, fleshed out already off camera. And I thought visually the movie was really good. A lot of the effects were really well done when you're handling a character like Galactus. The scale of everything is important, and I thought they did that well. A lot of the fight scenes were really, really good. Silver Surfer looked great. There's just a lot of things to enjoy about the film, and I think the cinematography was really fun too, and like a fresh take for Marvel as well, just because we're doing this whole like futuristic 1960s scape for this film. So I thought that was done really well. Some of the story beats and stuff were like a little bit like kind of predictable at times and things like that, but overall it was enjoyable as far as the story goes and stuff. But yeah, we'll get into the deeper things in a couple minutes here after we give it our score, and then we're gonna go right into the spoiler section. So if you don't want the movie spoiled, go and see it. Come back to the video. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do our little countdown for our rating here. All
Okay,
right.
cool. Do you want to count it down this time? I did it last time with Superman.
Sure. All right.
All right.
Hold on. I have to really think about this for a second, because last time I had 2 days to think about my score, and now I'm a little bit more on the spot. It's like the
This
next
one, I mean,
afternoon.
not only that, but I found this one I was bouncing between two scores. Like, it was harder for me to pick a score for this compared to Superman.
Yeah.
But I've landed on a number, so I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay. I think I'm good to go.
Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1. 8.5.
7.5.
7.5. Okay. I'm giving it the same score as I gave Superman. Um, all around, a
Really?
lot of fun. I thought they
I'm
did the
I'm
characters
surprised
really
by that.
well. The only character
But
that I thought, and I enjoy Pedro Pascal and a lot of stuff. The Mandalorian helped kind of resurrect Star Wars, and as a fan of that franchise, obviously, I appreciate him as an actor, and the writers and the people behind that. Jon Favreau is like a hero of mine. I've liked him in other stuff. I think he's great in The Last of Us. He didn't like. He just wasn't like Reed enough for me. He was very like, and you know, spoiler warning here. Like, we're gonna now start talking about the actual movie and stuff like that. I feel like he was very unsure of himself throughout the whole movie, and he's like, it's been 4 years since they got their powers canonically when the movie starts, and then they do another 4 year time skip in the end of the film as well, and I just feel like they're 4 years into having these powers. They've become these global celebrities, And they've done a lot of like really notable shit outside of just being like superheroes. Like Sue has basically like created their own version of like the United Nations, and they established she's like gotten every country in the world to like dismantle their militaries and shit, which is like insane.
Yeah.
And like shit like that. So these are like nobody on the planet wouldn't know who these people are. You know what I mean? Like they're very like notable people, and they've like settled into these new lives that they have. And for whatever reason, Reed is still like whining about like how it's his fault that they were exposed to the cosmic rays and shit and got their powers. It's like everybody's cool with it, you know? Like they didn't do the whole thing with the thing where he's like struggling with having his powers because he's the one who was most like I guess like deformed by his powers, and the rest of them still
Right.
look normal until they're using their powers. So you know that is part of his character, both in the comics and in every other iteration of the Fantastic Four that we've seen. And they didn't do that whole thing where he's struggling with being the thing, and I think that like that's what made the whole thing of like Reed Richards still being like bummed out that he didn't like do all the calculations and didn't prepare for that, and is the cause of them getting their powers. It just kind of felt out of place, especially in a world that they've set the stage that these people have gone on to do like incredible things for the world because of their powers, you know, and they've like protected, you know, the citizens of New York as well as the world with these superpowers. It's like I just don't get why he's still like upset about it. It just felt out of place. If they were gonna do that, then you gotta like do the whole thing with the thing and make it so that he's still like struggling with his identity because of it and whatever. And because that wasn't present in the film, I just felt like he was. It just kind of came across as like a little whiny or like a little like immature of him to be like still hung up on that, I guess. And Reed
That's
as a
fair.
character is supposed to be like very like sure
Yeah.
of himself and very like, you know, matter of fact and whatever. And there were times in the movie where that was the case, but there were also a few moments where he just didn't really capture Reed Richards for me super well. I'm gonna take my wallet out of
Did
my back pocket so it stops digging in my ass.
Did you want to go through pros and cons like we did last time then? Because I have a list.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. You can start yours. I didn't really write anything down for this one, but
Okay.
I'm down to just wing my shit or just kind of
I'll
build off
go.
of what you're saying.
Okay. I'll go 2 points at a time. Or I'll go three. Because my first one's kind of like just a quick thing. I said it. Yeah, and this was the second one. Looked amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, CGI and effects were like. I mean, dude, they were top notch. They were the best of the best as
Yeah,
far as
visually a really
Marvel's
good
done. Like
movie.
they were. It was genuinely like this might be some extra level glaze, but it was genuinely on some like Christopher Nolan level fucking shit, like, bro. Like it looked fucking crazy. Like
Yeah.
the space sequence, which I'll get to later. Yeah, crazy. Soundtrack was peak. Their the Fantastic Four soundtrack and their theme and all that was peak. So just wanted to put that out there. Like the soundtrack was awesome.
Yeah, it was really
Um,
good.
the Silver Surfer stuff was pretty cool. I wish she had more time to like flesh it out. Her like kind of background stuff. The
I
movie,
suspect we'll see her again.
yeah. But that was cool. I really liked like how they made her like have a reason to want to like I guess have like PTSD, right? And
It
then
was
like
also really
turn.
cool how it was Johnny Storm who was the one to like appeal to her humanity, because you have Reed Richards, who's like the most intelligent man in the universe, and then you have Sue Storm, who's like the most emotionally intelligent person on the team, and Johnny Storm is kind of in that, you know, middle ground where he's he can be a bit of an idiot sometimes with like reading people and saying the right things and whatever, but he's not stupid. He is also a scientist. He's also an intelligent man, and he's not completely emotionally stagnant too. But I thought it was cool that they had him be the one to figure like to decipher all of the messages that they had gotten, and to
Yeah.
like be the one to behind the scenes figure out a different way to like appeal to her humanity. And had he have not done that, at the end of the movie he goes to make the sacrifice play and she pushes him out of the way and she makes the sacrifice play. And if he hadn't done that with her, and kind of broken down those walls for her, she wouldn't have done that, and we would have watched him give his life to save everyone. So I thought that was handled really well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
I also do want
I
to
thought that
just
was a
jump in
cool.
and say I think either one of two things: either we'll see her again and that's why they didn't flesh her out super deep, Silver Surfer I mean, Shah
Yeah.
Laval, or we'll never see her again, and the next time they show Silver Surfer in a different universe, it'll be Rad, who's the
Mm.
male version of the character. So for all the people that were like, I don't know why they fucking gender swapped her or whatever, it's like she is a character in the comics, and like
Yeah,
she
they
is,
didn't. That
yeah,
just is a character.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a different version of
Although,
the
funnily
Herald,
enough, that storyline of her turning is the male's storyline
right?
in the comic with Sue. But I like that's why I was saying I did enjoy the twist of them doing it with Johnny as her being the female version. I still thought it was great.
Yeah, yeah. It
So
was
yeah.
fun. It was fun to watch it. I thought it was a good culmination to the film, and worked well. But yeah, anyways, on to your next point.
Um the this kind of leads into one of my other points a little later on, but the entire space sequence, so when they go from when they leave, so when Reed figures out the pattern of wherever she goes planets disappear and they leave and go to his ship, from that entire sequence from when they get there to when they get back is like better than anything in Superman.
Oh yeah,
But I do think the lows of this movie are lower than Superman is my issue.
fair
Like
enough.
so my first point, a part of the what I call them, the space sequence when they leave and when they come back, is Galactus voice and look is what I have written. um
Oh,
Bro, he
Ralph
looked
Ineson
awesome. That
killed
first
it, dude.
reveal,
Yeah.
that first reveal, oh my, yeah, he looked so fucking cool, man.
Even knowing like the
So
comics and knowing Galactus as a character, I think they did a good job of like I'm even sitting there being like, man, I'd be shitting my pants, dude. Like
yeah,
to just see these eyes appear, and he's like fucking so unfathomably large, standing in the floating in space, and you're like, holy fuck, this is the guy, this is the dude. Like he could eat my planet, dude. Like we're fucked.
yeah,
I thought that was good. Also, the way
yeah,
that they
no,
escaped was cool too. How they established that
yeah,
Johnny can't, like, he has to burn oxygen to flame on in space, which is more or less scientifically accurate, right? Space is a vacuum. You wouldn't be able to like produce a flame in space. So I thought that was cool, and then how he like nearly passed out at the end because he went so low oxygen so that he could fly around and just like damage all of the tubes going into Galactus's back. I thought that was like a smart way of writing that. Is like how they get their escape. I thought that was cool.
yeah, agreed. um my next point pro I have is just their chemistry, like the family chemistry and like banter and whatever. Like
Yeah.
as you said like earlier on in like your overview, like it felt like a lived in universe,
Mm-hmm.
and they felt like these characters had been around a long time. So yeah, that was just something I wanted to to shout out and put up as a pro for sure.
Hell yeah.
I don't know if you have anything to add on that, but yeah.
Um, I have one con from that whole sequence, and that's kind of so they did the whole thing where they fly into like the event horizon of the black hole and trap Shala Ball there, and they Reed says it'll take her a month to get out, and then when they return back to Earth, the press conference or whatever is like they're back from their month-long journey. So it's like, what? Like, couldn't she have just come straight to you guys then? Like, it took you guys as long to get home as it took her to get out of the black hole. And then it had also established that she can fly at like insane rates of speed where she can like she hopped in their little fucking wormhole and was like keeping up with them flying faster than light speed.
Faster than the
Yeah.
speed of light. Yeah.
Yeah. So like she could in theory have gotten out of that black hole like at the same time as them getting home on the rocket, and then just within minutes or maybe hours, but whatever, like within the day she could have like come to Earth anyway. So I thought that was like super strange for them to like set that timeline and then like just kind of like undo it. Like I don't know, it was that was odd.
Yeah, that is
Um
fair. There was the time stuff in this movie was a little confusing. But um my next pro is their powers all looked good.
yeah, really good.
Um Specifically Johnny. Yeah, the fire looked really good, and it looked really good with his suit underneath. It was like super comic accurate, where because of their suit, it made him like the darker orange.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And then Mr. Fantastic's abilities finally didn't look like weird. It
Yeah.
actually looked good.
Yeah, it looked good. And when like Galactus grabs him and is like stretching him, he's
Oh
getting to
yeah.
the point where he's like starting to stretch to his limit, but his suit tears before he does. I thought that was
Hmm.
cool too because it's like they can put all this ingenuity into the design of their suits, but it can only like it can't be as good at their powers as they are, right? So I thought that was
Right.
interesting too, right? Like in theory, if Johnny burned hot enough, he would be fine, but his suit would eventually like not be able to withstand that. Sue being able to like turn her suit invisible and stuff like that. Like there's probably limitations to. Anyways, the point is like their suits are designed for their powers, but like their powers are always going to be more, have higher limitations than their suit does, right?
Yeah. Um, and then my last two things were, yeah, the space scene was peak. Like I just thought like the whole like pregnancy thing too, where he's like telling him the fucking coordinates and like what angle to go around this fucking planet, or like was it, sorry, this. So yeah, they're going around a black hole, and Mr. Fantastic. This was like the best Mr. Fantastic we had gotten. I think in the entire movie, this was like this is the confident Mr.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
He's like helping Sue give birth while telling Johnny he's got to shoot a different angle because um, the bullets
He's
he's
yeah
shooting
he's doing
are like bending around
calculations.
in this wormhole.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're like bending around this wormhole, and he can't hit the Silver Surfer. So he's like, Johnny, you're gonna have to like change your aim, and then also telling Ben to go this certain angle of degrees to be actually successfully slingshot around this black hole.
well
Like all
that
three things at once, and
yeah
he's using his powers to like do like pull switches and stuff all around the room while actually being in the middle. It was
that
so cool.
shows how intelligent he is, how intelligent he's supposed to be as a character, where he's running calculations in his head for their trajectory, as well as writing an algorithm to correct the guns firing within the slipstream, and helping Sue give birth all at the same fucking time. Like he's talking
Yeah.
her through it while he's talking both of them through it, and he's running complex equations in his head for both of those things. That was that was peak in the film, peak Reed Richards, and like very much on brand with the character. So I liked that a lot.
Yeah. And then my last thing was um I was kind of hyped that they gave for Franklin like the power cosmic.
Yeah. Well, they
So
had to. They wouldn't have introduced him at all if they didn't do that.
right, but am I mistaken in saying that in the comics, even though he is super powerful, he doesn't have the power cosmic. He's just like a super powerful mutant. Whereas in this, now he actually is the power cosmic.
I think he has the power cosmic in the comics
Oh, okay.
because he creates a whole new universe after like the end of Secret Wars.
Yeah, anyways, I don't know. I was for some reason just like super hyped when he like fucking rezzed her from the dead.
Yeah.
It was on
Well,
some
it's
like baby
funny.
Yoda shit where I was like, yes.
Well, it's funny because David was sitting next to me when we watched it. David has seen like the original, like 2004 Fantastic Four movies, and he like leans over to me when the baby like revives Sue, and he was like, "That was so stupid," and I was like, "Okay, to be fair, you don't know who this character is. Like, he's basically God, dude. Like he,
Basically God.
yeah, like
Yeah.
there's no like." He is like probably the most powerful character in all of the Marvel universe. Like, there's very few characters that you could make an argument for being more powerful than
Yeah, like you'd have to go to
Franklin
characters
Richards.
like the one above all who's legitimately the writer Stan Lee.
Right, and like shit like that.
Yeah,
So,
like yeah.
yeah, so as far as like characters
With a
on the
plot.
page of the comics with a plot, like he is probably the most powerful character in the universe.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm not mad at that. That he has the power to do that, and also like in the comics, he's that powerful as a baby, and until he's old enough to like learn how to use his powers, they have to put like a power dampener kind of thing on him, so that he doesn't use his powers without being able to control it. Because
And we
it's
already talked
dangerous.
about the yeah, we already talked about the end credit scene where they jumped the 4 years, so clearly they just kind of like skip past that.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
you know, he as an infant doesn't need to know how to control his powers for him to will something like his mother coming back to life into existence. Like that didn't really bother me as far as like a writing standpoint.
Yeah, no.
You know
No,
what I
neither
mean?
did
Like
it for
he's a
me.
baby, he wants his mom and she's dead and he
Well,
like
and it was also
wills her
kind of
back into
like
life.
it was kind of needed in the movie because you're like told this whole time that like the smartest man alive says that there's nothing special about the kid, and that
Right.
this fucking intergalactic planet-eating purple man says otherwise, and you're like, well, this is interesting. Like, what is like, what do you mean he is the one that can consume his hunger, his everlasting hunger? Like it's just a baby, dude. Like, what do you mean? Like, we didn't have any reason to actually believe this dude until he like resurrected someone from the dead. Like that was like we needed
Well,
to see that.
although Galactus did say he's hiding his powers from you. He's so powerful that he's like avoiding the scans and shit. So Galactus did say
Mm-hmm.
that when they were like when they went up to go negotiate with him or whatever. But yeah,
That's
no,
fair.
to be fair, we needed to visually see that he was like extremely powerful. I also liked that it showed like the
The
power
cosmic
cosmic
power,
in
like
her
yeah,
eyes when he did that.
bro, so cool,
It
so fucking
I've
cool.
been doing my rewatch of the whole MCU, and it reminded me very much of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 when Ego
Mm.
shows him like shows Peter his like cosmic plan or whatever. It was very reminiscent of the same sort of style of doing
Dude,
that.
I'm so hyped if they do like a fucking after they lose in Doomsday and in like Secret Wars, it's just like we try again or whatever the fucking case is, and we're losing again, and it's just like Franklin pulls up, and it's just like, yeah, yeah.
That's kind of how it's going to
The
be. That's kind of how it's
no,
going
I
to have
know
to
it's about
be.
to be so fire, and it's just about to be like the most powerful villain we've ever seen, who's literally mopped the floor with us for a movie and a half straight, 4 hours straight, and then all of a sudden, this like at that point maybe he'll be like 10 years old, 12 years old.
Yeah.
This
They'll have
kid's
to
about to
time skip
pull
it
up.
ahead again. Yeah.
Yeah, this kid's about to pull up and do some shit, and it's about to be so fire. I don't know. I'm just so excited for that. Like as much as I think the character's going to be really hard to balance, um, I think that it's just so cool to have a character like that. Like it really is, and especially because God Emperor Doom is not that level powerful, but he's up there too.
Yeah.
So it's like we're gonna need someone that powerful in order to take him out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was my pros. That was my pros list. I don't know if you have anything else to add yourself.
Quick side note. So, um, Thanos has been like burned out of existence. At least in the main timeline, was that supposed to be like a multiverse thing? Like they snapped him out of existence like in all universes? I guess not, because it showed them defeat Thanos in a different way in Multiverse of Madness on 838.
That and is what if not other multiverses or other universes? Because
Yeah, true. So
and
anyways,
he's in one of those. Yeah.
so in the main universe, which I assume is what everything's going to hinge on. I don't know how they're going to handle that with all the different universes. I guess when they make Battle World, it'll be like a different universe again. But
Right.
but I'm assuming they're not going to bring a new version of Thanos back just to have Doom rip his spine out of his body. So who do you
Right.
think he's
Yeah.
going to do that to in the MCU? If they show that scene where to set the stage for
They
how
are going
powerful
to
Doom
have
is going to
to.
do or going
I
to
would be
be.
very disappointed. Let's just go off the assumption because you're cooking. They're gonna have to do. I think you're right. They should do something like that.
Well, it's one of the
Who would
most
I
iconic
pick?
scenes for Doom as a character, let
Comics
alone like in
in
that run.
comics
Yeah,
in comics. Yeah, like
yeah.
comics panels. Period. That's up there. Hmm.
So if they can't use Thanos, just for the sake of like to not confuse people or whatever, what character would you like to see them use in that role of
You know
Doom
what I would have
ripping
said
them apart?
if it was 2013 is Hulk. Like if
True.
we had if this was pre Professor Hulk and he was still like, wild animal Hulk and like there's a scene where like I mean that would have been two fucking big bads that bitched him in a row though. But it would have been cool to see the Hulk just get fucking somehow he goes through like this obviously the impenetrable skin of the Hulk and just grabs his fucking spine would be wild.
Yeah.
But now that we have Professor Hulk, I feel like that'd be less cool. I'm gonna go with this one might be crazy, but Captain Marvel.
Okay.
She's been one of the most powerful characters we've seen. She's been around now for like a decent amount of time. She was there for the Infinity Saga. Like I wouldn't be overly mad if her time ended in these next two Avengers movies. So I feel like yeah, that would be crazy. There's a powerful like, and it's like not a character that's like Wanda, where it's like she's powerful as like her like abilities, but like her physical being isn't. Like you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I could beat Wanda in a fist fight, no powers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like Captain Marvel, like there's like Mike Tyson couldn't punch her hard enough for her to feel it. So like
Right.
for Doom to just fucking grab through her and like grab her spine would be fucking crazy.
Right.
Yeah. So I would probably say Captain Marvel. What about you?
If I like that you picked like a hero. If I had to
I
pick a
couldn't think of
villain,
a I couldn't think of a villain because there's no way they're gonna bring Jonathan Majors back for a cameo just to do that. You know what I mean?
you know who I would pick though?
Who?
Mephisto.
Really? I mean, that's too soon though for the character. No?
I don't think
Are
they're
you?
ever going to do anything with him after that. I think that was
Mm,
actually probably part of the reason why they delayed putting out that show for so long, is because they're like seeing all the backlash online of people being like, why are you guys setting up all these fucking storylines that are never going to pay off? I don't think we're ever going to see Mephisto and shit, or at least not as a prominent character. And also, like, keep in mind, that can be, like, undone by um, resetting the universe, right? It can just be
right.
like Mephisto's back kind of thing, right? Anybody that dies in that movie can just more or less be reset. So I don't know. I think he would be a fun one, especially
But
because they
that would
did just set
mean
him up to be very powerful, and then it seems like they're not really going to
that
do anything with
I
him.
don't think that's a I don't think that's a bad pick, but the thing is that doesn't mean much to the characters. That means a lot to us, the viewer. We're like, holy shit,
Right.
just fucking did that to Mephisto. But to like, what do you mean? Other than Ironheart, fucking, what? Sam Wilson's gonna be looking at this guy like, who's this guy? You know.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's like Captain Marvel, everybody's gonna be like, everyone knows Captain Marvel, and now she's just her spine's now in Bro's hand. Like,
Another one that would be cool. You couldn't do like the spine ripping out scene, unless you gave him his form from the comics, I guess. But another one that would be cool, kind of similar issue where it'd be like not very many characters on screen would really know like the like how crazy it was that just happened. But it'd be cool if it was Dormammu. If Dormammu like breaks through like a tear in the universe as Doom's like stitching together Battle World or some shit, and
Bro
Doom
just like
just fucking
closes his hand and
closes
he
his
just
hand,
like
yeah,
yeah.
and just crushes him, and it's just over. And Strange is like standing there like, holy fuck, that's insane, dude. Yeah, and that would be a cool scene because you'd only have to have Strange present for that, which works because in Secret Wars in the comics, Strange is like kind of he kind of like gets to this point where he's like, well, we're fucked if not for whatever Doom is going to do to fix this. So he like begrudgingly like helps Doctor Doom with everything, and he's like kind of his right hand man. So it would be a really cool scene in that sense where like, you know, Dormammu breaks through like a tear in the space time continuum or however they want to
Doom one
describe it.
shots him and
Doom one
Strange
shots
is
him.
just like he's just like, bro, we gotta just submit.
Right. Where that could be his turning point where he's like, okay, I'm no longer on the fence. Like I just have to help this guy regardless of like how I might feel about it. You know what I mean? Like
Because
he's reached a
he's like
power
supposed to be
level
the
where
best of
he's
all of us, right?
right,
Like
right.
strange meaning like he's supposed to be the
Yeah.
one that like never gets it wrong, and then that's why obviously he was like the one who didn't get it wrong for Infinity War and Endgame.
Right.
And I feel like yeah, if they did that again with his character, I wouldn't be mad because that is kind of his character.
Yeah.
So if he was like, yo, sorry, I'm gonna have to work with this guy just because like you'll see it'll actually end up working out for us because this is the only way.
Yeah, I
Or
think the
whatever, yeah.
Dormammu thing would be fucking very smart of them to do to set the stage for Strange like getting off the fence about helping Doom, where he's like, I don't like this guy, I don't like how he's doing what he's doing, but he is gonna save us. Like if this has to be the way that everything unfolds so that the whole multiverse doesn't collapse and cease to exist, like I'm just gonna have to help him, you know, get to where he needs to go because there's no other option to save us, kind of thing.
Right.
Anyways, that was just
Alrighty,
a
you
quick
want
side
to
note about Secret Wars and shit. If you want to do another couple points that you wrote down or whatever about Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I mean that was it for me for pros. So do you want to move on to cons?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so this was like my biggest con of the movie. Like this removed like a point and a half for me. Like this one thing. Galactus losing. That just like pissed me off because his introduction was so fucking like dope and like
Well, he
scary
didn't
and
lose.
intimidating.
They just kind of benched him. Right?
Brother, no. He got soloed by Sue Storm. There's no other. You can't argue against that. He
But he
straight up got
didn't because
soloed.
he broke back out and he had to be finished off by Silver Surfer, who's
Bro,
also incredibly powerful.
whenever okay, yeah, she's the most second most powerful person there, or should be.
Right.
But my problem is with that is like whenever we get a rewatch on this, we'll count the time. She was doing this with her hands, force pushing him for like a good 5 minutes of screen time.
Yeah. It was definitely like
And then
2
only
or
at the
3 minutes
very
at
end
least.
did he start to get his footing, and then the thing took out the building that he was using as support. That was the only bit of help she got.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
it's
sorry, but like it should have been if they were gonna go the route of like they didn't even like because the thing we said before going into this movie was like, okay, they're gonna come to our universe because they either got rid of him for a little bit and he's gonna come back and they
which I
have
was
no
fucking right.
plan.
Yeah.
Well, well, not really though. I'll get to that. I'll get to that, which is another problem I have with this fucking movie. But it was either A, we got rid of him for a little bit and he'll be back, we're cooked, or we straight up lost. We have no planet. That obviously didn't happen. But instead of going
Which
the
I
route
think
of,
was my
oh, that,
prediction out of the two. I think that's what I said was what I thought was going to happen was that they were just going to flat out lose.
which I think at this point I really think would have been a better ending. But um, my problem with that, if you just like, yeah, let me like, finish this little rant, um, is like when they established that this motherfucker doesn't have a fast ship of any sense.
Right.
They were able to get the world to like assemble and build all these fucking teleportation beacons around the globe. And like this montage that we got that we can assume was over days and days and days and days. And they sent him to the other side of the galaxy.
Right.
Reed's like, yeah, we won't be seeing him for
Without his
hundreds
ship.
of years.
Right.
Without his ship, we will not be seeing him for hundreds and hundreds of years.
But that's Reed calculating based on the factors that he's aware of. So something could happen where Galactus is able to like speed up that process as well.
Right,
Right.
but we don't know that, and they didn't show us that, which is my problem. So, as of what we know, they were like they got rid of the problem,
Right.
and then now the thing was at the end was Doom, which I thought the Doom scene was cool. But if you're gonna do that and only like show him at the end with the kid, I would have appreciated more drip feeding of Doom throughout the movie. We didn't even, you know what I mean? There was the one scene where he didn't show up to like the Accords or whatever the fuck they called it.
Right.
That was it. That was literally it. So it
Yeah,
was like,
Latveria had like a
yeah,
empty seat at their like version
yeah.
of the UN or whatever.
So that was the thing for me was like, yeah, you're right. They didn't kill Galactus. That would have been fucking retarded. But
Yeah.
like they did in fact like more than just temporarily remove the threat. Like they removed the threat for like the lifetime of everyone on that Earth plus their kids. Like he's not a problem. Like
Except for
so.
the thing. The thing will still be around.
What do you mean?
In the comics, the thing. I don't know if they'll ever do this as far as in the like cinematic universe, but in the comics, the thing reverts back to his human form for like 1 week of every year or some shit, and that's the only time that he can age. So there's like a storyline where they're like going through time, and every time they see the thing, he's just like, I think he's like a few thousand years old by the time he like actually dies of old age. Like he's like 3,000 years old or some shit by the time he actually dies of old age. So he outlives all of them. He outlives most established characters in the universe as they're going through that like time travel thing.
That's pretty fucking cool, actually.
Yeah. So I don't know if they'll do
Um,
that because I don't know if they plan to do the thing where he like takes on his pre-powered form at any point. But if they do
right.
kind of emulate that in the MCU at any point, even post Secret Wars, then it will establish that like he ages like insanely slowly. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was my problem. I don't know if you have anything to agree or disagree, or I don't know what you have anything to comment
Yeah,
on
I
that. But
mean,
that was a
I mostly
massive
agree with
problem
that
for me.
sentiment. I think they showed Doom at the end to kind of like skirt around that, where like what you're saying, like Doom is now going to be the reason why they leave their universe, and
Yeah.
it also seems like, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If they just repeat all the story beats beat for beat from Infinity War and Endgame, I'll be kind of disappointed. I'll be very disappointed. But it seems like that's what they're doing, where they're going to lose in Doomsday, have to figure out a separate plan, come at it again, and then they'll win in Secret Wars. I think what the setup with the Doom thing, so the Doom post-credit scene, we didn't even see his face. No one spoke. Like, it was literally just like Doom sitting on the couch holding Franklin, and Franklin's reaching out and touching his face. So what I think that was is that, like, they're setting up the Fantastic Four to be in sort of the Ant-Man role in Endgame, where they come to Earth as like the messengers, being like, yo, kind of like a combination of how they used the Hulk in Infinity War and how they
Infinity
used
War.
Ant-Man in Endgame, where they're going to be the ones that come to the 616 universe to be like, yo, this guy from our universe is trying to tear down the multiverse and create a new universe, and like he's going to be this huge existential threat on your entire universe and all these things, and they'll kind of be the messenger boys for that impending
I don't know.
threat.
It's just so weird to me that they did that. It's just such a plot hole for me that it's like
Well,
the
it
four
seems less
most
of a
influential and powerful people on Earth that he explained at the beginning of the movie that they keep tabs on all these evil people
right.
and that they actually work with them, including the Mole Man, who's now like ended up being a subplot that like helped him at the end as an evacuation thing, which I
Yeah,
thought
he's
was
more
cool
of
in
an
a way.
ally than a villain at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like you're telling me you had no tabs on the one country that probably declined shutting down their military, and you didn't keep tabs on this guy that now has better technology than you, Reed. You didn't keep tabs on this guy, really? You didn't?
Well,
How did he do this?
I
How did
think
he pull
Doom
this
is
off?
I think Doom is smarter than to just be like, no, I'm not shutting down the military. I think he would like just hide the fact that he didn't. Right? Like the fact that he has a seat for
Right.
Latveria on
Which
that
is
council proves that he is like, by all intents and purposes, playing ball with them, but behind the scenes, he's actually, building up an army rather than dismantling it, as well as, doing all this other shit, to prepare for what he needs to do.
yeah, which is another leads to another con I have, which is like kind of a con, kind of not really, just because I don't think they're gonna do it, which is why I have it in the con area. But they're gonna have to explain even more of Doom's background in Doomsday now
Right,
because they
which
went the
is what
route
I
of
was
Doom
gonna say.
taking.
Yeah, they did
Yeah,
a cop out where what I was gonna say is that for all we know, in that 4 year interim period before that time skip for that post credit scene, he could have like kind of become a threat that's on their radar, but we didn't see that on screen, right?
yeah,
So you saying like, how has this guy gone undetected, whatever? For all we know, he didn't, right? Like for all we know, he's been the main issue that they've been dealing with for the 4 years between Galactus and that post credit scene, but we don't get to see any of that on screen, so it's gonna have to be explained on screen at some point anyway, which is just kind of a annoying way to take the story. I
I guess
mean,
that's my point. Is with them not having either Galactus be a returning threat and or sorry, not and, but Galactus being a returning threat or him just outright winning being the cause of them coming to the 616 universe. And the cause for them now coming to the 616 universe is because Doom takes Franklin, meaning that, yeah, as we just said, you're going to need more background for him. I'm just surprised. Why wouldn't you just do it in this fucking movie? This movie was less than 2 hours.
now to be fair, Spider-Man 4 Brand New Day, I think is what they're calling it. I know that's what they're basing the comics on, but I think they're just calling the movie that.
I think they are just outright calling it Brand New Day, yeah.
Right. That was supposed to take place between, or sorry, not maybe take place in timeline, but it was supposed to release between Doomsday and Secret Wars, similar to how they did Ant-Man and the Wasp, and
Or well, Ant-Man and the Wasp, yeah.
right, and I believe Captain Marvel as well came out between the two of them.
Yes.
So, in fairness, what would have happened if they didn't push the release schedule for Doomsday and Secret Wars, which I'm glad they did because they need to spend a lot of time on those movies and make them really good.
Yeah.
The the plan originally was obviously to have this movie end abruptly in that way and not explain the whole Doom thing, and then I will be blown away if the opening sequence of the next film that would have come out, being Doomsday, isn't just like in the 828 universe and like explaining Doom's motivations and shit like that. Like what I think will happen, if I had to guess, is it'll probably the Doomsday will probably start out with
I
Doom.
think you're about to say the exact same thing I'm going to say.
It'll
I'll be
start out
curious. Go ahead.
with Doom attacking the X-Men universe, and it'll just provide no context for what's going on, and we'll just see this like gruesome battle of him just fucking destroying a whole universe, and then it'll like that'll be like the big opener where it's like what the fuck is going on or whatever, and then the actual like story opening of the movie, it'll go then straight back to 828 and be like, this is what's going on, he's from our universe, this is his motivations, we've been keeping an eye on him for the last 4 years, he's been doing things that are like we don't know why he's doing them, and he's throwing up red flags and shit, and we're looking at it and speculating what he might be like doing. I think that's what we'll see.
That's actually not bad. I was going to say, I'm like, so I don't know if you know this, but the end credit scene confirmed now, both the Doom one for Fantastic Four and the end credit scene for Thunderbolts were both directed by the Russo brothers.
Right.
I genuinely think those two scenes, so the way that, if you remember Infinity War and Endgame, where obviously you're following multiple storylines at once.
Yeah.
Which another reason I want to shout out Infinity War so much is like how good that movie was for following whatever 3 or 4 storylines at once. But yeah, you're switching between all these different storylines. I think the opening two scenes of Doomsday will be those two scenes. Like obviously not them, but like right then and there after that scene kind of thing.
Well,
you know what I mean? It's gonna be the reverse order. You're gonna see Doom take Franklin and like hop through his teleporter and fuck off right then and there with Franklin, and then you're gonna see them panic and hop into the jet and try to track him, and they're gonna see that he's in a different universe after Reed crunches some numbers, because he already talks about in this movie, to be fair, how he knows about parallel universes.
Right.
And they're gonna hop right over, and we're gonna flash right to the Thunderbolt scene where they have incoming ship, and it's their ship.
I think you're correct in that being like the first story that we get, but I think they're gonna just show him destroy a universe before we see anything.
That would be sick. That would be sick.
Well, it'd be kind of like the opening to Endgame, or not Endgame, Infinity War, where it's just like he just mops the floor with the Asgardians, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And then you get to sort of see his plan in the like when the actual story picks up, when they send Hulk to Earth and kind of do the exposition to explain to us why Thanos is coming and that sort of thing, right?
Right.
So
I guess I didn't really have any other cons.
it's another thing that I just thought of, just off on a little bit of a side note or whatever, is in Infinity War they do the whole thing of Thanos getting the Power Stone off screen, and then there's just a line where they say he acquired the Power Stone last week when he decimated Xandar, and then we never like get any like there was no bow tied on that at any point, like we didn't go back to Xandar. So I'm curious, like, is Nova out there, or did Thanos like permanently destroy their planet, or like did he kill everyone? Was that undone in the snap, in like Tony's snap, that brought everybody back? Did it bring back people that that Thanos killed like along the way to his snap, or did it only undo his snap?
Hmm.
Right? Because I never really thought about that. It's just kind of like a
I would
throwaway
just
thing.
assume I would just assume that it just undid his snap,
Right, which
and that
means
everything
Xandar
that
like
he
99% of Xandarians are killed, you know, and
yeah.
like maybe Nova's like the only survivor or like some shit like that, right? Or like one of
Is that
very few
confirmed that we're getting that
survivors.
character?
They greenlit a show, I think, for Nova, and then it just sat in development hell. I don't think they're ever gonna make it. But they did
Damn. Yeah,
like
because
they
that's
were
one of my
planning
favorite
on.
characters.
I know he's fucking awesome, but they were planning on introducing him as a character, and I think it's just it's not like necessarily too late. Like he could be one of those characters that just shows up in Doomsday or Secret Wars and is like, "Hey guys, what's up?" And they're like, "Who the fuck are you?" You know, like even the Guardians of the Galaxy could be like, "Who the fuck are you, dude? Like we don't even know you." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it would be he would be like shoehorned in at that point. I think they're just gonna avoid it until after Secret Wars resolves and they do the universe reset. Then they might be able to just introduce him as a new character, because they're gonna have to do this balancing act of recasting beloved characters like Tony Stark and Steve Rogers and shit like that to give a fresh take on those characters, as well as like who do we introduce that's new, and you know, forget about these guys over here, we're not continuing their story, but like we gotta like replace them with some new blood and like, you know, introduce some new characters that haven't been shown on screen before. I suspect that's where we'll get characters like Blade and Nova and all those characters, where it's like these are beloved characters that people have wanted to see on screen forever. They've greenlit projects to do these, you know, films, shows, whatever, but so they obviously have an intention of introducing them at some point. But I suspect at this point now they're like, okay, we need to rush to the finish line to do the whole Secret Wars thing and the universe reset, because that's how we're going to get people back in theaters and stuff. That like that whole thing I explained of, you know, it means that there's no homework anymore. You can just go see a Marvel movie and understand what's going on. So I think they're just trying to rush to that finish line, and then they're like, okay, this shit that we greenlit's gonna have to be like on the back burner. Like, you know, keep fucking with the script and, you know, come up with something new that's in a reset universe and whatever, and we can just start with a blank slate with them. Because I don't think they're gonna just be like, yeah, fuck Blade, or like, yeah, fuck Nova. Like,
Yeah.
people love those characters. Like, people were over the moon to see them greenlight a Blade movie. Like, fucking Blade is sick. Mahershala Ali is an incredible actor. Like, it'd be a treat to get to see that movie. You know what I mean? So it's a they can't just leave that in development hell forever. That doesn't really make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, do you have any other cons to add, or is that
Um, outside of being like nitpicky, not really. Um, I think the runtime was a little short. Um,
yeah,
they
which is
they could
funny to
have
say.
they trimmed the fat really well in this movie, where there wasn't really a lot of filler, but then it also made some scenes like not hit as home, or as hit as hard, and like, you know, be close to home like they're supposed to be. Like, you know, they're facing this moral dilemma where Galactus wants their son and will spare the entire world if they give him to him, and they obviously don't want to do it. But as would be in real life, the public opinion is the opposite, right? It's like it's the whole
Yeah.
thing of like, do you switch the train tracks to run over one person instead of 8 people? You get to make the if you switch the tracks, then you have been the reason. You're now the reason why that one person is dead, but now the 8 people are not dead, right? So it's like, if you leave it, then you get to like not have a moral implication with what happened, but if you switch it, then you get to save more life. And like that's the whole moral dilemma that they're facing in this film. So obviously the public opinion is going to be like, yeah, maybe don't sacrifice all of us to try and fight this like incredibly powerful threat that you don't know if you're going to be able to handle and just give up the kid, right? It's like 1 versus 8 billion, right? So
Yeah.
that but with that whole thing set up, because this movie was had a short runtime and really trimmed the fat on a lot of stuff that was going on, that whole scene where Sue goes out with the baby and like addresses the public and she's like, everyone on earth is part of our family and like all that shit, it just didn't hit hard because it's like there was no like, they didn't spend enough time on that topic in the film. Do you know what I mean? Like that could have that
Yeah.
deserved another like 10 minutes of runtime of just explaining like how do we approach you know, convincing the public that we can handle this and that it's not worth giving up our kid and like whatever. It just was like she just walked outside and did it, and it just didn't feel like it. Like people would not react like that in real life. Be like, yeah, I guess we are a family. Like no, people would be like, fucking give up the baby. Like nice sentiment, but like we're all fucked if you don't do this. You know what I mean? So, and I mean, I get that they set up this very like you know, peaceful world that's very earnest and, you know, the values of the 1960s, and people are like, you know, willing to dismantle global militaries and shit in this universe. So
Yeah.
it's like, it does make sense that like the general consensus would be more of like a sentimental and like, you know, the public would be more open to something like that, to being like convinced to get off of the fence and be on the side of the Fantastic Four, but it's like it just felt a little like shallow and like they just could have spent like a few more minutes fleshing out that scene. And there was a few times throughout the movie that, you know, I should have written stuff down, but like there were other times in the movie where it felt like they just kind of rushed through something that could have maybe gotten a few more minutes of screen time to sort of explain motivations or that sort of thing. So that's kind of another, that's like the last really big gripe that I have with the movie, is that it seemed like they just trimmed it down a little bit too much. But
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I
anything outside of
actually
that
think that
is
this
just
movie
little
could have.
nitpicks.
Yeah, I think you might have convinced me to bring it up to an 8. Because I think that's a good spot. Because I do think Superman was better. But I don't think it was a full point and a half better. But
Yeah, I think it was on par with Superman. I think they're very different movies. You know, they kind of
yeah,
hit
they were
some of the
very, very
same.
different.
They kind of hit some of the same story beats. Like I said, you've got this lived-in, established world where we skip the origin story and all that shit. But I think in a lot of ways, the Fantastic Four movie handled some of those topics better. Like, you know, it. If you tell me like before I go see a movie, like, would you prefer the montage of like explaining the backstory that we're not going to show on screen, or would you rather just get right into it? I'd probably say let's just get right into it, but I think it worked better for the film, the way that the Fantastic Four movie handled that, with doing like, especially when you're a public figure, and Superman fits into that same category, where it's like, just show me a couple interviews with him, or like a, you know, like a snip cut of like a docu series that's like explaining their backstory to the one person on Earth who doesn't know who they are, to like kind of give me that exposition. And I think that was handled better in the Fantastic Four movie than the Superman film. It just, I think Marvel is again at this like impasse where they have to make certain decisions or they're gonna end up losing more of like the box office market and like that sort of thing. So they just have to do certain things certain ways, and that's where this movie lost like the point and a half for me. You know, like there's nothing really
Yeah.
fundamentally wrong with the movie, but like I would have liked to see Doom properly introduced. Just knowing that we're going
Hmm.
into Doomsday and Secret Wars, like we have this pinnacle character who becomes like the most powerful being in the universe outside of Franklin Richards, and like, you know, like how are they going to fit that all into one fucking movie to explain Doom's
Yeah, that's
motivations
what
and
I
all
mean,
that shit
dude.
now?
Yeah.
It's like you really just needed to add 30 minutes to this film and introduce Doom at the
Yep.
end. And I
Absolutely.
think, you know, there was a way that you could have written that into this movie where it's like, okay, we defeat Galactus, we're good, but then all of a sudden Doom just comes out of nowhere. And like they could have even done it where like uh Doom just appears right after they uh kick Galactus through the thing and he disappears out the other side, and then Doom just appears out of nowhere and he's like, "Good job, I was about to step in if you couldn't handle yourselves," or like some shit like that, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit, here's this guy," and then they could have just spent like 15 minutes, like, you know, dealing with that whole thing. I would have skipped over the whole thing of like Sue overexerts herself and dies. I think that was not really integral to the plot other than to just show how powerful Franklin Richards is. And I think if you know, you know. I think they could have just left it like that. And in fact, it would have been a bigger reveal when he becomes a pivotal character in Secret Wars. They could have just kind of drip fed us how powerful Franklin is meant to be in Doomsday. And then by the time Secret Wars comes out, that's the first time we see like a huge feat of his abilities. I would have just skipped the whole Sue dying and being revived thing and just had Doom show up right then. And while they're already like exhausted and having just dealt with Galactus, Doom shows up and starts threatening them. And then they try to whoop his ass and they get their asses handed to them and he just laughs and flies off or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like you could have
Yeah.
even worked that into the film and then done like another 15 20 minutes on the runtime where it's like Doom is this new threat now. You know, we've benched Galactus where it's like it'll take him centuries to get back here in theory. We don't have to worry about him now. The Earth is safe. But now there's this other threat that's from within where Doom is now threatening our whole universe, let alone, you know, not just our planet. You know, you can't, you know, with, and that would have worked so well with how they handled trying to defeat Galactus in the movie, where it's like they were going to teleport the Earth away. Well, like, you know, you could just rebuild those, you know, whatever other threat comes, you could just rebuild that shit and just teleport the Earth away. We proved that in theory that this is possible, whatever. But then it's like, if the threat to your world is that your whole universe is going to be torn apart, then there is nowhere where you can teleport the Earth. Do you know what I'm saying?
Your mic's cutting out sometimes. Hold on. I don't think it's me because my Wi-Fi says it's good right now.
Okay. Well, hopefully it doesn't pick up on the recording, but yeah, I don't
Sorry,
know.
just run that last little bit back.
Yeah, that's just how I would have handled it. Like they established that it's like, okay, the way that we deal with this existential threat to Earth is that we teleport the Earth to another part of the universe where we can bide ourselves some time to deal with this problem as it comes. But then if Doom comes along at the end of the movie and he's like, yeah, hey, just so you know, my plan is to rip apart this whole universe and
Mhm.
take pieces of it and go stitch it together with other universes, then there is nowhere you get to teleport the Earth to be safe, right? So it would
Yeah.
set up this newer threat where it's like all the solutions that you've come up with to deal with this problem in this movie is just like null and void. Like there's nothing you can do now to stop Doom from what he's going to try and do other than to just fight him, and then you have him kick their asses and then they're like he's going to be a tough fight like Galactus. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think again, like this is where the movie lost points for me is they're they're in this rush to make it to the finish line right now in the whole like Marvel universe. You know, it's why the post credit scene for the Thunderbolts, which was such a good movie, felt so out of place. And it's not just because it was directed by a different director or whatever. It was because it was shoehorned in to be like, this is how we're doing things in the future. It's like they're just trying to rush to set everything up, and that's why like
Yeah.
you know post credit scenes like you know the one where Thanos like go you know at the I think it's at the end of Guardians 1 where he goes and grabs the Infinity Gauntlet. He's like, fine, I'll do it myself. That's it. That's all they needed to do is just like Thanos
Yep.
is coming. we can put that on the back burner for as long as we want to, whatever, because they had this long-term plan for how they were going to set things up,
Yep.
and it could change and adapt as things happened that might affect the story. And now it's just like, okay, we can only do this one way to make what we're working on make sense. And what it means is that a lot of the stuff that they were planning to do, they've introduced like, what, 10 plus characters in post credit scenes alone in the last few years that are just never going to pay off now. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like it's just a very different vibe from when they were setting up like newer, bigger threats and larger storylines in the past, to where it just feels very like calculated and like, okay, this is how we have to do it for this to make sense, and it just doesn't hit the same way. You know what I mean? So that's where the movie kind of lost points for me. There's other, probably a point 0.5 of where it lost. This would have been a 9.5 movie if all the things I just talked about were handled correctly. Because I do think it would have lost a little bit with like, again, I like Pedro Pascal. I like a lot of the stuff that he's been in. I think if you haven't seen The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, he's fucking hilarious in that, and like that movie is so funny and so good. He's been in tons of stuff that I like. I like him as an actor. I just think he didn't really like hit the mark as like what I envisioned as Reed Richards in my head. And then just other like smaller gripes with things would have lost at that 0.5 anyway. But I think it loses that full point for me, bringing it down to an 8.5, where it's like it just feels like they're just trying to like bridge into the next thing so hard that they're like shoehorning in shit that doesn't like really fit the story, or that it just doesn't feel like realistic, or like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know how to articulate what I'm saying, but you kind of get what I mean.
Yeah, no. I mean, just to build off that, I mean, yeah, you're right. We were drip fed Thanos for like 10 years, and I think
Yeah.
that's why it works so well. And now the problem with not even doing it in this movie was why I was complaining, and I had it in my con, is like, at least do it in this movie, give him a little bit of something. Because
Yeah.
now you're right, they have to do it all in one movie, and it's just like, that's going to be tough.
Well,
That's
especially
going to
for
be
such
tough.
a
Important character with so much lore.
not only important but just beloved dude. Like, if you ask any like Marvel Comics fan, I would say at least like 25 to 35% at minimum of people are going to be like, yeah, Doom's my favorite villain. Like, he is a fucking cool character that is so beloved by the fucking fans, and like we're just going to rush him and just pump it out. And then on top of that, we cast Robert Downey Jr. to play him, which it's now a coin flip of whether or not they're just going to fuck the whole character up to begin with, as well as it being rushed. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that can lead into our like, because we've kind of already gone on like a tangent past just Fantastic Four here. We're talking about Doomsday, but that's kind of what this movie is all about. Did you hear what Feige said about like a soft reboot?
Yeah, he said like he's willing to like recast a bunch of characters like Tony Stark and Steve Rogers and stuff like that. What specifically were you talking about though?
I'm just referring to the fact that like, yeah, I mean, when you were like saying before how like powerful, like this was like months ago when we were talking about this movie, and you were like, before this, even the trailer of them showing that she was pregnant, you were like, yo, she's gonna be pregnant. We're gonna get Franklin for this movie, or and whatever.
Fucking smart like
And
that.
you were like explaining to me how like powerful this character, bro. You're so right. What's gonna happen at the end of Secret Wars is he's going to be the reboot.
Franklin?
How much do you want? Yeah.
Well, that's what happens in Secret Wars though. I'm only going based on like the comics. Like, that is what happened.
No, I
At the
know.
end they like basically like there's like this whole convoluted thing where like Spider-Man and like a couple other characters were like on this ship when Doom created Battleworld, and so they weren't part of like battle world where like he had wiped everybody's memory of any sort of previous universe that they were all from, and so they just kind of lived in this world where that's what they thought existence was. And then some
Mm.
characters show up on this ship and they're like the only people that remember, and I believe Doctor Strange does too. But he's like I explained, like he's kind of like Doom's right hand man, so like Doom allows him to like
Right.
remember the previous universe. And basically these characters that know what was before have to work together to like convince other characters that like they have to overthrow Doom, because everybody's just kind of complicit in what Doom's doing because they don't remember their universes prior, and they just kind of accept him as their leader and like the god of their universe or whatever. So it's when they then get to like Franklin Richards, where at the end of Secret Wars to like as they're defeating Doom, they realize that like this is the only thing in existence now is Battleworld, so they have to get Franklin to create a new universe for them to all live in. And that's why like we got characters like Miles Morales Spider-Man was from the Ultimate universe, and you had Peter
Mm.
Parker Spider-Man from the 616 universe. But after Franklin creates that new universe for them to live in, they just like certain characters bridge in together. So like in some instances it's like only this one version of like Thor or whoever goes on to like be the Thor in the new universe, and then in other instances it's like we're getting Peter Parker and Miles Morales Spider-Mans in the new, or Spider-Man, or I don't know how the fuck you'd say that, in the new universe. So that's how we get like two Spider-Man characters in one universe, is like because Franklin creates a new universe for them to live in.
Well, they're most definitely going to do that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And that'll be our reboot. And then I'm curious where they go from there. That'll be an interesting. That'll be a very hype 2 movies leading into the future.
I'm going to have some serious gripes with it, and I'm telling you that from right now, where it's like, listen, I love Robert Downey Jr. I have nothing but respect for what he did to create this universe of movies and shows as it is. We wouldn't have any of this without his performance, as well as people like Jon Favreau and shit that like pushed to make these films, Kevin Feige who produced them. But at the end of the day, them casting Robert Downey Jr. to play Doom is is like the most desperate, ridiculous thing. Like there's no world in which I would have made that choice. It's like it just causes confusion and chaos. I think that they're going to handle that poorly. And I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a scene in the fucking movie where he takes off his mask and all these fucking heroes are like, oh no, it's Tony, we can't attack him. That's dumb. That's retarded. I don't want to see that. That's like the wrong kind of like, you know, trying to get me to care about something. Like that's so stupid. I don't want to see that. He should have just been Victor Von Doom, played by a new actor that had fuck all to do with anything else, and just introduce him properly. In fact, I think, and I've seen other people saying this online since we saw the movie yesterday, I think that post-credit scene where Franklin's reaching up and touching his face might be Franklin healing his face, because as you know from the comics, Doom is supposed to be like heavily scarred on his face, and in multiple iterations of his introduction as a character in different universes and stuff throughout the comics, it's different ways in which that he gets scarred like that. But it's a big part of his character because he's so vain and so like, he thinks he's better than everybody, and then he's got this fucked up face, so he hides it with the mask. And I think so in the comics, that's what happens is Franklin like fixes his face. So I think that's what they were showing again, but like without showing it. Like if that's what they did, that's even more annoying because it's like we're gonna skip the whole origin shit of Doom, and then just like, we'll get like in Doomsday, it'll like pan around from that same scene of like Franklin being held by him and reaching out and touching his face, and it'll like pan around and like show his face get healed, and then he'll just be Robert Downey Jr. Like, I'm assuming that's what they're gonna do, and it just, that's annoying, bro. I don't want that. That's fucking annoying. It just feels cheap and like member berries in a bad way, where it's like, hey, remember Robert Downey Jr. and we killed him off, and all of you fucking morons that don't know how to tell a good story, we're all upset that we killed off this character. Like, I can't tell you how many people that I know were like casual Marvel fans that were like, yeah, I'm done watching this shit now. They killed off Tony. It's like, do you know how to tell like a compelling story? Like, people have to die. There has to be stakes, or like what's even the point in telling a story? You know what I mean? Like, I just rewatched Avengers Age of Ultron, right? And I understand that it was like a contractual issue where they had to kill off Quicksilver right away, to be able to use him in that film and to be able to then go on to use Wanda, because of the whole rights dispute with, or like the deal that they had made with Fox at the time that was not the same studio like they are now. But do you know how refreshing it was that like somebody died in an Avengers movie? Like, even if it was like a character that they just introduced and whatever, it was like, rewatching that, I was like, man, like, they should have been doing this more, man. Like, people need to die to like set tone and like set stakes, and like, we can't introduce like 100+ characters that all are, varying levels of superpowers, and just have everybody have plot armor. Like, that's retarded. That's not how you tell a good story. And that's what the comics do well, is like they're constantly killing off characters, and then it's like, but then there's all this voodoo bullshit where they can bring people back, or like people come back in different ways all the time. But it's like, by killing somebody, you elicit an emotional response. All those same people that were like, I can't believe they killed Tony, I don't even want to watch anymore, are the same people. It's like, okay, well then it worked. They got an emotional response out of you. You cared more about that scene than anything else. That's what the intention was, right? So it's like, I don't know. Just bugs me that people don't know how that shit works. Where
I don't know. I have faith. I don't think they'll do like the Tony. I don't think they'll do that.
I think I would wager a solid bet right now that that's what's gonna happen. Like, I'd put $100 on that right now and shake your hand over the fucking internet. Like, I am convinced that's what they're gonna do. And I'm convinced that Spider-Man is going to be in the room when that happens. My mentor is the bad guy? Ooh. Guaranteed. Like, I will be blown away if they don't do that. And I'll be extremely mad when they do. Because that's fucking dumb.
I don't know. I don't think they'll do that. But I do think that they'll have like a thing where it's like, they don't explain his backstory that well. That's what I'm worried about more. Not necessarily.
Yeah, we're going to dive right into it. There's no way they can avoid that at this point. They didn't set him up in this movie. Yeah. That's what they had to do to avoid that. We have one more movie coming out next, and spoiler alert, Doom's not going to be a part of it. We might get another post-credit scene or some shit that like sets up Doom's motivations or some shit, but I'm telling you right now, he's not going to be part of the fucking story in the Spider-Man movie. No. You know what I mean?
No.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to guess, I would suspect that what we're going to get for a post-credit scene in the Spider-Man movie is like what we got in the Ant-Man and the Wasp post-credit scene, or like that sort of shit, where it's just like, the movie resolves in the Spider-Man film, and then the post-credit scene is just like some dimensional rift opening or some shit, just showing like that Doom is destroying universes. Like, that's all we're gonna get. It's just gonna be like this outside thing that has nothing to do with the story and doesn't further the plot for Doom or explain any of his motivations or anything. Like they're gonna do that entirely in Doomsday, which I have a problem with because it's like you're taking this incredibly beloved, incredible character that's so interesting and has such good lore and backstory in the comics, and we're just gonna rush through that. So that's an issue that I have.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's my main concern. Yeah, I mean, do you have anything else to add,
Uh,
or anything else you wanted to talk about?
well, I want to say like, I've said a lot of stuff in the last 20 minutes or so that have been sort of negative or like detractions from the overall plot that they're setting up and whatever. This was a good movie. If you enjoyed Superman,
Mm-hmm.
you'll enjoy this movie. Go take your kids to see it. Go take your girlfriend to see it. The beauty of this film is that you don't have to know anything going in. I invited someone, unfortunately, that couldn't make it last minute, so I brought my other brother that lives here in town with me to see it. But I invited somebody that I don't even know if they've watched any of the Marvel shit. And it wasn't like a thing of like I'm texting them being like, yeah, by the way, like you might not understand what's going on at certain points if you haven't like watched Marvel, but like come see this movie anyways. It was like I didn't even preface it with anything. It's like just come see this movie. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that is the type of film this is.
True.
You know, it's just good family fun. You can take your girlfriend to see it. You can take your kids to go see it. Take your grandma, whoever the fuck you want. There is no like homework to do. I mean, knowing who the Fantastic Four is like a good starting point because they do gloss over a lot of like the exposition of explaining who these characters are. But even if you don't know who the characters are at all, they do like the bare minimum exposition, and that's what I think they did better than the Superman film, where it's like if you really don't
Yes.
know who Superman is, then like you're kind of getting thrown into deep waters with that movie.
Yeah,
With
you're a
this
little
one, they
cooked.
do explain like who these characters are, where they came from, how they got their powers. It's just very quick and like full exposition. Like there is no like you don't see most of it. It's just like a little montage explaining everything. So you can really go into this with no prior knowledge of who these characters are, having not seen the last 20 Marvel movies or any of the shows or any of that shit, and that's where I'll give it a lot of points. And don't let my like negative detractions deter you from going to see this movie. Is all I want to say. Is like it is a good movie. It was fun. I think most people that aren't like critically analyzing it from the perspective of the whole greater universe that it exists in are gonna just enjoy it flat out. I don't think most people are gonna have these gripes with it that Declan and I had. And it's a fun movie, and you should go see it. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, I'm still, yeah, very, very excited for Doomsday and Secret Wars. So,
Yeah,
and Brand New Day. I'm excited for everything going forward. Still, that was just my one detracting thing. Because like for me, the yeah, that ended just the last like 15 minutes of that movie were the only reason that movie wasn't like a better than Superman for me. To be honest,
yeah.
like it was a better movie than Superman for me up until that point. So. Yeah, it was really good, and as I said, it's probably the best looking Marvel movie, like just flat out.
I think
It might be.
Thunderbolts looked really good too, but they didn't go
Yeah,
as big of a scale with like what they were
scale.
doing
Yeah.
with that film. So I think it had a easier job to look that good. But like Thunderbolts looked fucking great too. Like I think
Hmm.
they're learning lessons in some areas where I'm like, as a fan of the franchise, like proud to see them like take steps in the right direction with certain things, but that's also why it bugs me so fucking much when they do shit that's like, how have you not been listening to the fans? How have you not seen the writing on the wall that like, skipping past things and rushing to the finish line is not going to end with the best result. You're not going to get a 10 out of 10 movie out of this. You know what I mean? So, but where I'll give Marvel credit right now outright is that the last two movies have looked visually really good. The writing's been good. It felt like they went into shooting it with a finished script. I think that's really something that they've shot themselves in the foot with time and time again, and I think they're learning their lesson on that. And I think that's why they push back the release of the next two Avengers movies, is because they want to polish everything before they get too far into production and stuff like that. I think they're learning certain lessons that I'm happy to see them learn. But again, that's why it just, infuriates me at times where it's like I can see the writing on the wall that they're either not seeing or just choosing to ignore, with the whole Doom thing and other stuff, and with the casting of Doom and all that stuff. Again, I love RDJ. I'm happy that we get to see him back, but like, you could have done that in a very different way. Like, we could have just got another universe as Tony Stark and him play that. If you wanted to bring him back for Doomsday and Secret Wars, like, there was an avenue to just do that. We never saw Tony Stark in the X-Men universe. It stands to reason that he existed there. We never saw Tony Stark in the in this universe because it takes place in the 60s. Like, it stands to reason that by the time it gets to the early 2000s, he would come around as a character. So, you could have just shown another version of Tony, played by RDJ. I think using him to play Doom was the wrong move. But overall, obviously as a fan of the franchise, I'm still going to go to every premiere. I'm going to see every movie right away. I'm going to watch fucking 4 hours of videos on it in 2 days, just because that's, this is a hobby of mine, or like a passion of mine, and I'm going to enjoy it. It just, I just can't see giving Doomsday or Secret Wars like a 10. It's not, I don't think either of them are going to be in like my top 10 Marvel movies, just because of how they've approached doing this. And I think part of that is on the fans too. It's not entirely on them. I think part of that is because people have checked out. People have, decided that they didn't like the direction of what they were doing before they really gave it a chance. I've talked to many people that were just like, post Endgame, they're like, I'm not even gonna watch this shit anymore. And then they go and see one movie like out of the blue, and they're like, yeah, this multiverse shit is dumb. I'm not watching this anymore. They've fucked up Marvel and like whatever. Like, I feel like a lot of people haven't given them a fair chance. And so part of the responsibility is on the fans for not seeing through the vision that they had for what they wanted to do with this next phase. And now they have to rush to get to the end of it because people are just not enjoying it. And, if you go and watch the bonus episode that Declan and I did, like, there's tons of multiverse shit that I think is like stellar movies. Like, there are movies in my top 10 that are part of the multiverse saga. I don't think they're dropping the ball as hard as people are saying they are. And I think that's kind of unfair to the creators and the writers and the actors and everybody. Now, there's been issues. Brave New World was not a good movie. I think, I think we talked about this off camera on a phone call the other day, but it's like, I think when we did our bonus episode, we talked about how Ragnarok was a great movie, but it set an unfortunate tone for what Thor movies are going to be going forward, and then Love and Thunder was not good. I think they did the same thing with Captain America, where Winter Soldier was so good that they were like, okay, Captain America movies are spy thrillers now. And then it still worked in Civil War, but not quite as well as Winter Soldier. And then by the time we get to Brave New World, you've got a new person as Captain America taking up the mantle. You have a perfect opportunity to do a very different tone and different style of movie with that. And they were like, well, Captain America is spy thrillers now. And then it just didn't land. It was like, we set up all these characters that you hadn't seen in years, or like, the leader just comes out of nowhere. It's like, oh, hey, remember him from that fucking Hulk movie that most people didn't even know was part of the MCU? You know what I mean? It's like, it just didn't work. It didn't work as a spy thriller, and it's like because they were spinning too many plates and trying to make this movie be in a certain genre or a certain tone that it didn't really fit into. So they've made mistakes. I'm not saying, I'm not just like an outright apologist. Like, we won't even talk about fucking Secret Invasion and shit, but like, there's been
Yeah.
some bad shit. Like, don't get me wrong, but there's also been some fucking incredible things. Loki season 1 and 2 were unbelievably good. WandaVision was really good. Spider-Man No Way Home was amazing. Deadpool and Wolverine was amazing. A lot of these movies and shows have been really, really kick-ass, and I think it's unfair to like paint it all with the same brush of like it's just Marvel's just not good anymore. But I will also say there has been some shit that if you only went and saw like Thor 4 and Brave New World in the past, 6 years or whatever it's been since Endgame, then I could see having that take, where you're like,
Yeah.
this sucks now. You know what I mean? Like if you only saw the two worst movies that they've done, or maybe you're like, oh, I'll watch a Disney Plus show, over the Christmas holidays or some shit, and you watch Secret Invasion, you're like, man, these Disney Plus shows fucking suck compared to the movies. Then it's like, yeah, I can understand having that take, but if you've seen all of this shit and you've been keeping up with it, I think it's pretty hard to be like that hard on them. You know what I mean?
Disappointed, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at with
I agree.
everything.
Still very excited for the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. Me too.
But yeah, this one was a little, yeah, like we didn't have as much to talk about specifically just because as we were saying this was a setup movie and this movie set up less than we thought it was going to.
It also had a shorter
So,
runtime than a lot of Marvel movies
yeah,
do.
then
I
Superman
think.
as well.
Then Superman,
And
even then Thunderbolts, I think had a longer runtime than this.
yeah. So,
So
yeah.
yeah, there's just
But
a
I mean,
little
we
less to
still
talk
went for
about.
like 2 hours. Or almost 2 hours, no?
Uh, hour and 36 minutes right now. So
Oh, okay.
this will be a shorter episode, but
That's chill.
yeah. I feel like if you're a big old nerd like us, hence the name of the show, Nerd Escape with Ryan and Declan. um, if you're a big old nerd, you'll enjoy sitting through these long discussions. But like, I feel like the average person, if you went and saw this movie and you happen upon our podcast talking about it, this is probably the go-to length for that.
Yeah, that and I just think there was less to talk about when it came to the actual movie than like even Superman that we did a couple weeks or like a week and whatever ago.
Well, Superman is setting
Just
up a whole new universe and stuff like this.
exactly,
This is
and
setting up the end of a universe, so it's kind of like a very different, it's apples and oranges kind
yeah,
of thing.
it just and yeah, there was not as many like points to talk about. But it was still obviously like yeah, really good and check it out. But yeah, I mean that'll be all for now, I think. But we'll definitely do another episode soon.
What did
So.
you give it? 7.5?
Yeah, you might have convinced me of an 8 though. Well, we talked.
Okay. 8 and 8.5 are not bad scores. If you liked 80% of something or 85% of something, you liked it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
Yes, this is true.
any good girlfriend, it's like if you like 85% of her and just that 15% you're not fond of, you've got a good girl on your hands. You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah.
You can work with 15%.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Anyways, all right. We wrapping it
check
up
out the
then?
movie and much love.
Thanks for tuning in again. Appreciate
Yeah,
you.
peace. Or peace.